Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be discussing in a little bit more detail Okta Access Gateway and how you can implement this if you are a current existing customer of Okta or if you're potentially evaluating it for your own organization. Now, if we haven't met before, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Grace Dolby, and I head up the support and the pre-sales teams over here at Somerford Associates. We are an elite partner with Okta, and I'm very proud to say I've been working with Okta for a little bit over 6 years now, and I'm also an Okta Technical Champion. Now, when we think about how access and managing access to things has changed compared to even 5 years ago, the entire kind of estate that we're working with and the way that our users expect to access anything that we provide to them has changed a lot, and the expectations have become higher and higher. Now, applications are no longer hosted just on premise or whether they're just in the cloud. We have a variation of applications in different locations and in some cases in hybrid deployments as well. We also have users accessing different locations, different applications, different workstations, and even different databases with different devices as well. People are not just working from the single office, from their single workstation. We all, nowadays often work from home, work in different locations, maybe work on a different site, or maybe move around depending on where we feel that day. So our users' expectations have risen because they expect to be able to access all of their normal work applications from different devices in different locations. So this kind of traditional perimeter style security has really fallen by the wayside. Now, of course, we still want to deliver secure access into different applications, servers, APIs, you name it. But we also want to do this in a way that's nice and seamless for our end users, but also nice and easy to administrate. And working in support and onboarding of users, I'm very biased in my expectations there, but everything must be very, very easy to administrate and manage, because otherwise it's adding extra work into all of our days. Now, with Okta Access Gateway, we really seek to deliver a single sign-on approach that you can add all of our extra kind of amazing features to, like adaptive multi-factor, whether that's policy-based or whether that's behavioral-based. And these can work across your SaaS and your different cloud applications, but also into your on-premise apps with the same security policies without changing how those applications work. So you still use the same Okta Identity Cloud platform as you use for your normal SaaS apps, for your Office 365, for your Workday, maybe for your Google for Business account, whatever it might be. But you actually are integrating it with those on-prem applications that you might still have hanging around. And especially in some verticals like insurance, finance, and the public sector, these applications are not going away anywhere. So we have to find a way to seamlessly integrate with them in a nice and easy way to manage. Now, as you can see, this is the flow from an end user who potentially might be accessing an application. And in this instance, it's the intranet page. So you can see the user has come in on the left here, and they've gone through a bookmark that they have in their internet browser. Now, Okta can also do desktop single sign-on, so you may not see this screen in the middle, depending on the policies that you want to implement for your end users. Now, in this case, we have a policy set up that actually asks the user to verify their identity. But more importantly, you can see in this middle section here that they're actually getting the opportunity to send a push notification through to their phone. Now, this is what I love about Okta, is the flexibility in the types of multi-factor that you can offer, and also when you want to deploy those. So whether it's on a behavioral basis, whether there are certain critical applications that you want to provide the extra layer of security with, or maybe it's just that you want to do it on a time-based policy or a location-based policy. Now, with the push notification, it also provides the least disruption to the end user, because we've all been there, we're in the middle of a really kind of in-depth report build or something like that, and we want to go and pull some data from a certain location or a certain report. We go to log in and we're prompted with multi-factor. We have to go onto our phone, get the multi-factor up, and in doing so, we probably see that we have, 17 unread emails, and we read those, and then you might need to call somebody, and it just disrupts your productivity. With the push notification, you can get the notification sent straight through to your phone, or if you have a smartwatch, it can come through to there. And it's a simple one-click yes or no, it was or wasn't me. The great thing with Okta Verify as well is that it can integrate with the device's native biometrics. So if you have an iPhone with Face ID or another phone with a fingerprint sensor, we can integrate with that and again give you a stronger level of security across your applications, even when they're being accessed from home or on the road. Now you can see that this user has been put straight into the intranet portal with no kind of change to their normal flow of accessing the application. Now we can also unify this experience. So if you have all of your applications integrated into Okta, the Okta kind of application screen becomes their native go-to for anything and everything. So here the user is now, instead of going to that direct bookmark to the application, they're going to the Okta platform. Now, as I said, you can also use desktop SSOs. They don't need to use this, but I really love being able to use this because you can use it across different types of devices and of course mobile devices as well. Now, once we're in, we're able to see all of the applications that we have provisioned for us. And then with one click, we're straight through into the application itself. So you can leverage that really nice and seamless login experience, whether that's from either signing into the app or going ahead and signing in from the application screen. And then we're also able to prompt them in line with our security policies for additional factors, whether it's a soft token here, or whether that's you want to ask them a security question, or you want them to use a hard token, whatever you want to deploy. So Okta Access Gateway has three major benefits, and of course costs is not going to be a surprise to anyone. When we are running applications on-premise, there is not only the cost of those physical virtual servers to run those applications, but there's also servers required to provide access control to those applications. And when they're on-premise, those can be rather costly. So by using Okta Access Gateway, you can reduce on average 5 times the numbers of servers that are required. So that's an amazing benefit, especially if you are running on virtualized infrastructure or if you are running your own applications in your own cloud environment. This is a great way of reducing that per minute cost. Of course, we can improve your security posture, and I've mentioned a couple of times about the way that we can unify those security policies across all of your different applications, no matter where they are. But of course, you can also leverage amazing extra features from Okta, like threat insights, which can block malicious IP addresses and bad actors, and also passwordless access. And this is something that I think, we as end users are becoming more common with as well, more familiar with, is getting a little email to ourselves that we can then sign in using that magic link and get straight into our application without even having to know our username and password. This removes the critical normal cause of error, which unfortunately is the end user. And we're all guilty of it, unfortunately. And of course, we can help you get the most out of depreciated platforms. So if you're running C8 SiteMinder, maybe you're using Oracle Access Manager, those are really common uses for those type of applications. You can actually go ahead and rip and replace those with Okta and make sure that you are getting the most out of those older kind of legacy type platforms. So there are two kind of main areas where we reduce cost. Of course, I mentioned previously about the infrastructure cost of running those independent servers to protect applications, and of course the subscriptions required to those different identity management services, but also by reducing the operational time and cost that is spent on things like if you're doing stack upgrades, infrastructure management, or of course the crux of everybody's pain of their lives if you work in support, and that is password resets. The more individual credentials users have, the more password resets and other operational tasks that you have to do on that daily basis. So the traditional approach to kind of integrating with on-premise applications, whether you're using a cloud-based identity service or whether you're using one that you run on-premise yourself, is that often you'll use proxies and WAMs and kind of using that with your middleware, and then of course accessing the databases on the back end to deliver that basic infrastructure. And often it would take multiple servers to be able to do that. So here we've got the database, we've got the user directory, we've got the different middleware here. And of course, this is additional cost to just run and maintain that infrastructure, but additional operational cost as well for the time to administrate and manage it. You also end up with multiple environments to support development and of course fault tolerance as well, especially if these are key applications for you. You'll often have a DR version and you may also have a development version as well. And you may have multiple identity providers, as I said. You might be using an Oracle application or something like that to be able to kind of resolve that requirement for API management or WAM for your on-prem apps. And of course, all of this adds additional cost and of course time to manage, administrate, and kind of deal with as well. Not to mention the number of credentials that could be left on certain servers if they are managed on a kind of per server basis. Now, Okta Access Gateway, as you can see, is a much smaller infrastructure deployment. We really shrink the requirement, so you need less servers per environment, less requirements per environment as well for sending users on kind of a huge loop through different federations, different MFA servers, different WAM, and of course having the individual admin consoles for all of them. And most importantly, it creates a single identity profile for all users and all assets in your organization as well, which again makes it much easier for you to manage and administrate, but most importantly, makes it much easier and simpler to apply those security policies across the board. Now, of course, talking about operational costs, what does this mean in practicality? Well, of course, first of all, you have to keep those servers that you might use with a WAM up and running, and you probably will need to patch and upgrade every single component. And of course, that requires multiple specialists with different types of skills that always need to be there and be involved in these projects. Now, with Okta Access Gateway, we really seek to flip this on its head by collapsing the infrastructure that you need to run with cloud services. We try and use a soft appliance model where you can deploy different infrastructure and the application that we use to run Okta Access Gateway to a number of servers without having to create, like a hardened appliance that you have to then run independently. And this in turn reduces your dependency on different specialists across different pieces of infrastructure, technologies, and identity services themselves, because Okta is extremely accessible for all different levels of IT users to integrate with and also to administrate as well. Now, of course, if you are still using a WAM, you have security that has been kind of the same across the past decade even. You've got weak authentication factors such as using Flash plugins, maybe you're using RSA tokens. You have a much longer mean time to resolution for security vulnerabilities, and you also have a deep threat surface due to the extended infrastructure. So we really focus on, of course, modernizing your security by giving a really lovely user experience, but deploying that with more modern security factors and capabilities for managing that user as well. Of course, much shorter mean time to resolution for your security updates because they're deployed from the cloud easily and simply. And you also make your attack surface much shallower because you are collapsing the infrastructure down, and you're also not having specific servers doing the role of, authenticating that user's identity. Now, it's no new thing that Okta is really modernizing the user experience, and I usually say whenever I'm doing a webinar that I can guarantee that at least one person on this webinar today will have accessed an application using Okta without even realizing it. That's because the user experience is very friendly, easy to use, and can be implemented to your own kind of look and feel. So it doesn't even look like, the standard kind of Okta authentication screen that we might be used to. You can, of course, leverage passwordless access, as I mentioned before, and the push notifications for extra factors, which also helps you protect any system against account compromise and lockout, whether that's your Office 365 apps, whether that's AWS, or even eBusiness Suite that you might run yourself. So we took a stat from the EdgeScan vulnerability report, and it actually shows that the average time to fix or mitigate a vulnerability discovered in an application web layer is 77.5 days. 57% of breach victims were breached due to the vulnerability for which a patch was already available. And of course, on average, organizations spent 12 days only coordinating the patches across their teams. These are 3 huge lead times for 3 major attack vectors that malicious potential inside users or external malicious actors may be utilizing to their advantage. Of course, with Okta, we really focus on resolving any security vulnerabilities within hours. We always create public disclosure as well once that issue has been patched, so we're not just potentially, of course, opening up a potential threat to more people trying to make use of it. Now, of course, when you're actually trying to use your own WAM, it creates a huge burden on you as well to react to security issues as and when they come out. And unfortunately, there's no pre-warning to these things. And sometimes a critical security threat could get shown out of the blue, and then you're working through the night to try and resolve that. And of course, by shrinking down the infrastructure, you reduce the time that it takes to help you resolve that security incident or vulnerability, because you don't have to patch, 10, 20, 30 different servers that are all integrated into this WAM environment. You can go ahead and patch a couple of servers that you're using for Okta Access Gateway, and you can also deploy those patches from the Identity Cloud. So it's very, very easy and simple to fix, and also doesn't require a bunch of specialist engineers or specialist IT technicians to come in and do that for you. Nowadays, different legacy SSO and WAM solutions are even being defunded by the vendors that created them. They don't easily support multi-factor, mobile access, or even APIs that now are becoming a default for our future projects. And they also can't offer you the scale for different spikes you may have or seasonal traffic. With Okta, we provide weekly updates over the wire. We also have native support for over 6,000 applications with integration into MFA, mobile access done securely, and API access management. And we're purpose-built for scale. We can handle thousands, millions of requests per second with not skipping a beat. We can build from, having say 100 users signing in a minute to 10,000 users signing in a minute. And some of the largest kind of user bases out there of different organizations are actually using and leveraging Okta to do that authentication and identity management now. Furthermore, with Okta, you're safe from the mistakes that are committed by different WAM vendors. We've built the Okta platform and Okta Access Gateway from the ground up to avoid the limitations that are found with things like Oracle or SiteMinder or even Ping Identity. So we have the deepest catalog, as I said, of over 6,000 pre-built integrations. We provide those updates on a weekly basis and as and when they're needed to on an ad hoc basis as well, that are done in live with no downtime at all. We don't, say, oh, we're going to take you down for half an hour while we do this update. The update will happen without you even realizing, seamlessly, and not affecting your end users. We also have REST APIs and SDKs for the top 12 programming languages and support for more than I would say more than double, if not triple, the open standards than most competitors out there. Again, we're really seeking to give you the kind of freedom to leverage whatever end application or end platform that you want to, and really just provide you an easy way to integrate that identity and access management into it. Now, of course, you can reduce risks by avoiding an all-at-one migration, but if you do want to do a big bang approach, as I say, Okta is more than capable of handling that level of traffic. Hitachi Vantara is a great example of a customer, however, that did things at a slower pace to decommission Oracle Access Manager in a way that was suitable for their over 50,000 employees, contractors, and customers. They had over 125 different apps, including eBusiness Suite, AWS, ServiceNow, and Salesforce, that were all migrated to getting their identity from Okta. We removed challenges with, of course, that traditional issue that we have now of legacy maintenance and patching, and we improved the agility and time to deploy for support for new apps, because with deploying with Okta takes literally hours and days rather than weeks and months. A new application can be configured, tested, and deployed within a day. Now, they also did a great talk at Octane, I believe it was in 2019. So if you take a look on YouTube, you can also see their own words, which I definitely recommend to you after this session. So what are the key takeaways in regards to Okta Access Gateway and how it can be leveraged to your organization? Well, the first is that we can deliver, of course, that traditional SSO approach with extra features such as adaptive MFA to your on-premise, your cloud, and your hybrid applications. We do not change how those applications work today. And that's something that we want to repeat extra loud for the developers in the back who are currently going to be panicking about having to rewrite thousands of lines of code to integrate with another identity access management platform. The good news is there's none of that. We reduce the cost significantly by collapsing that existing WAM infrastructure. And we also improve security with modern experiences and a cloud-first model that suits most organizations' cloud-first strategies or API-first strategies, especially in the public sector. And of course, we reduce the vendor risk by migrating away from depreciated products, but we also help you reduce that risk by collapsing that infrastructure down, and also by preventing you from having different security policies across different types of applications or infrastructure locations as well. If you'd like to learn more about Okta or Okta Access Gateway, please do reach out at info@somerfordassociates.com. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more or get hands-on, please take a look at our website, somerfordassociates.com. And there you can join all of our free workshops and webinars where you can get hands-on with the product and really see and feel how it would work for your organization in real time. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.